This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, June 20th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
A decision from President Trump on Iran will not be coming soon.
I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks.
Ed Donahue, Washington.
Democrats walked out of a Senate hearing on former President Biden's mental fitness. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A SpaceX rocket being tested exploded Wednesday night in Texas. I'm Donna Warder.
A potential THC ban in Texas is in the hands of the state's governor. I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, markets open up again today after yesterday's Juneteenth market holiday and a mixed day for Stocks Wednesday. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Update on a plane crash as the NTSB issues a preliminary report, and ICE agents barred from entering a stadium during a sporting event. All ahead on America in the Morning. 2 weeks, the timeline President Trump says he'll use to make a decision as to whether the U.S. will take military action in Iran. This, as Israel's surprise attack a week ago has seen the country send warplanes by the hundreds into the skies of Iran for targeted strikes on nuclear facilities, missile launchers, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Iran has shot hundreds of ballistic missiles at Israel, including one that hit a hospital in the southern part of the country, injuring 200 people, a move that Israel's leadership vowed will come with a heavy price. Correspondent Ed Donahue has the latest.
A decision from President Trump on Iran will not be coming soon. The president has been talking about the possibility of joining Israel in strikes against Iran and its nuclear program.
You don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt read a statement from the president.
Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks.
Leavitt was asked why the president thinks there is a substantial chance of negotiations.
I'm not going to get into the reasoning and the rationale the president believes that, but that's his position.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the president will do what's best for America.
The partnership with the United States, the partnership with President Trump, with whom I speak to almost every day, is incredible.
Iran has long maintained its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes.
We're targeting military sites. We're targeting nuclear sites. We're targeting missile sites. They're targeting a hospital. In this hospital, there are patients who are immobile. They can't even move. Right next to it is a children's ward, a baby's ward, infants.
Israel and Iran continue trading airstrikes. An Iranian missile hit the main hospital in southern Israel. Windows were blown out. Heavy black smoke could be seen. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the site.
They're targeting civilians because they're a criminal regime. They're the arch terrorists of the world. They want to have nuclear terrorism, which will put the entire world under nuclear blackmail, and they would use these weapons.
Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, blamed Iran's supreme leader. He said Ayatollah Ali Khamenei absolutely should not continue to exist. At Soroka Medical Center, Dr. Dana Brayman says patients considered helpless had been moved underground Monday.
This morning, we understood how lucky or how smart was this decision that before today maybe seemed like a very big decision.
Minor injuries were reported at the hospital. Israel, meantime, carried out an attack on a heavy water reactor in Iran. I'm Ed Donahue.
Democrats sour over a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing investigating President Biden's mental fitness during his term as president. Dems on the committee either refused to show up or walked out after the hearing began. John Stolnis has details from Washington.
The hearing, called by the Republican majority, sought to investigate who knew what about President Biden's health during his 4 years in office and whether evidence of a mental decline was hidden from the public or ignored entirely. Durbin blasted his Republican colleagues for failing to hold any oversight hearings thus far of the Trump administration, despite, quote, numerous critical challenges facing the nation.
Apparently, armchair diagnosing former President Biden is more important than the issues of grave concern which I have mentioned.
Toward the end of his opening statement, Durbin played a mashup of video clips of President Trump during the last few years.
If my colleagues are truly interested in issues of presidential succession and disability under the 25th Amendment, I would suggest they embark on this constitutional journey with a proposed amendment.
Democrat Peter Welch was the only other Democrat to speak, and before leaving the hearing explained he doesn't engage in pointless debate.
Why am I doing it? And if I do it, does it have the potential to make things better for the people I represent? And if the answer is no, it doesn't have any opportunity to help the folks in Vermont, I shut up.
Republican Senator John Cornyn noted the absences of the committee Democrats during his remarks,
leaving us with no other option than to take the boycotting of this hearing as an admission of guilt for their role in this crisis.
Cornyn accused Democrats of allowing their fear of a second Trump term in office to justify, quote, an attempt to put an at times addled old man in the Oval Office for 4 more years. John Stolnis, Washington.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Smarter sleep is life-changing. Save over $600 on a Sleep Number King P5 smart bed, the lowest price of the season, only at a Sleep Number store. Pot use up in most states. This one may ban THC. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. A heat wave is defined as any 3-day period with temperatures exceeding 90 degrees or more, and we've got that for some folks across the nation. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The weekend will bring the gradual shift eastward of a rather impressive extended round of heat and humidity that will bring the start of the first heat wave of the year for some in the east, but for today, that heat will be parked over all but the northern plains states, stretching into the entirety of the Four Corners region. This is nothing new for the Southwest this week, where cities such as Phoenix have had daily high temperatures of 110 degrees or more since Saturday, just short of records on a number of occasions. As that heat expands today, look for highs of 5 to 15 degrees above the historical average in these areas, and of course, plenty of sunshine. A rather chilly storm for June will continue to blast on shore in the northwest and much of the west coast, popping up some showers from northern and western Washington into western Oregon, perhaps even parts of mainly coastal northern California, as cooler air settles in away from the coast from central California into Nevada on gusty breezes. Those breezes will extend into the southwestern states. Thunder will be more likely, albeit with spotty storm coverage over eastern Oregon, with a more organized zone of showers and thunderstorm risk from northern and central Idaho through Montana. For eastern Montana into northwestern lower Michigan, storms may turn severe late today and tonight with hail, strong winds, and tornadoes. Some storms also build into parts of the interior northeast late today, but not nearly as potent as Thursday's widespread gusty storms. Most places from the northeast into the mid-Atlantic and interior south look dry, with an afternoon storm most likely from the Carolinas through the Gulf Coast, and rain with thunder in South Texas. In Summertown, Tennessee, it's a mainly sunny and warmer day today with a high of 83. For Summer Lake, Oregon, expect a colder and breezy day with limited sun, high 49. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. SpaceX planned to send a Starship rocket into orbit on a test flight, but instead it never made it off the ground, exploding in a fireball prior to launch in Texas. Correspondent Donna Warder has an update.
A SpaceX rocket being tested exploded Wednesday night in Texas, sending a fireball into the sky. SpaceX says its Starship experienced a major anomaly around 11 p.m. Wednesday while on the test stand. It was getting ready for the 10th flight test at Starbase, Elon Musk's SpaceX launch site on the southern tip of Texas. SpaceX says there was no danger to nearby communities, and it's asking people to stay away from the site. Audio courtesy of Andrew C. of Rocket Future. I'm Donna Warder.
Also from the Lone Star State, a decision surrounding banning THC looms as Governor Abbott considers both sides of the argument. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The Texas legislature passed a bill that bans hemp products in Texas that contain any amount of THC. Currently, the 2018 Farm Bill allows for the sale of consumable hemp products like gummies or vapes with a limited amount of THC. There's about 8,000 smoke shops and 50,000 employees at those shops across Texas. The ban could put them out of a job. Governor Greg Abbott has until Sunday to sign or veto the ban.
I've got 1,000 of these on my desk that I have to get through, and I haven't gotten to SB3 yet.
If the governor doesn't sign or veto the ban, it will eventually automatically become law. Advocates say THC shops are too accessible to kids. The industry, though, itself is calling for more regulation. An outright barring of the drug, though, is what's on the table in Texas. Critics of the ban say it would hurt the mental health of veterans. I'm Clayton Neville.
In sports, the Indiana Pacers beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 108-91 to force Game 7 in the NBA playoffs. Summer electric bills about to go higher. We'll have that and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. We welcome in this Friday to America in the Morning, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street back at it this morning after yesterday's Juneteenth holiday. Most investors planning on light trading volume today. A lot of people took today off to make a nice long weekend, but earnings season is not over, and we do get results today from names like CarMax, Accenture, Olive Garden parent Darden Restaurants, and grocery chain Kroger. Investors are hoping some trade deals get done, and soon. There's a looming moment where stocks could really pull back when President Trump's pause on implementing the reciprocal tariffs ends. That's in about 3 weeks.
The markets have just wanted to ignore this deadline. You know, we call it the elephant in the room. I think even if you don't have any additional reciprocal tariffs come on July 9th, you're already the economy is already having to navigate a much higher tariff rate than it has in really like 100 years. But we do think that you could see some additional tariffs come on July 9th, and that could sort of burst the proverbial bubble, if you will, of risk markets.
PIMCO's Libby Cantrell on CNBC. Summer arrives tonight, and yes, you can expect your summer electric bill to go up.
The EIA estimating the average American household bill will go up to about $186 per month this summer, about a 25% jump in just 4 years. This is something a lot of people don't know. How often dangerously short of electricity production we are. In fact, recently, the Department of Energy ordered an old power plant. It's near Philadelphia. It's called Eddystone. I think it might be the oldest power plant still operating in America to stay on, because old Eddystone could be the difference between having enough power in the Mid-Atlantic region in the summer or literally running out and having black or brownouts.
That's CNBC's Brian Sullivan. Airlines facing a flying pullback heading into the summer season. The Financial Times says in the past 90 days, fewer passengers traveled through U.S. airports than the year before, according to TSA screening data. We found out this past week that JetBlue executives are making some tough decisions, warning investors the airline will likely not even break even this year.
The company said it was looking to cut more flights and reduce costs on softer than expected travel demand.
CNBC's Sarah Eisen. If you shop on this holiday, keep an eye out for something called Summerween. It's a real thing. Retail Dive says the Michaels Craft chain is putting products out for Halloween earlier than ever, meaning now it actually debuted last Friday the 13th with items on shelves. A battle setting up in the movie theaters with Universal's How to Train Your Dragon coming off a massive winning debut last weekend. It's up against Disney Pixar's newest family film, Elio, tonight. Also in theaters this weekend is a horror film fans of the genre have been waiting for. 28 years later.
All right, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Friday Business. When we return on America in the Morning, ICE agents blocked from entering a major sporting event after these messages. The National Transportation Safety Board has provided new details about a deadly May plane crash in San Diego. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
Shortly after the crash of a small jet into a San Diego neighborhood last month, NTSB investigator Dan Baker told reporters
there was airport lighting that was out that would have affected the illumination of the runway.
Now the NTSB says the runway lights at Montgomery Gibbs Executive Airport had not been working since 2022. Repairs delayed while waiting for an environmental study, although other lights at the airport were working. Flying through foggy weather, the pilot acknowledged,
"Doesn't sound great, but we'll give it a go."
The NTSB says the pilot appeared to try to activate the runway lights by keying his microphone on approach. But too low, the Cessna struck power lines before crashing, killing all 6 people aboard and injuring 8 on the ground. Sound courtesy ABC 7 Los Angeles and liveatc.net. I'm Ben Thomas.
A Major League Baseball team is being accused of not allowing members of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency to enter their stadium. Correspondent Marcela Sanchez reports this led to protests by fans against the ICE agents.
Immigration agents were asked to leave Dodger Stadium Thursday morning after arriving in SUVs and cargo vans near a parking lot gate. In a post on X, the Los Angeles Dodgers said ICE agents requested permission to access the parking lots and were denied entry. Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said the agents were not trying to enter the stadium. In an email, she stated their presence was unrelated to any operation or enforcement. Local media reported a group of protesters gathered shortly after. The team said the game against the San Diego Padres will be played as planned. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
America in the Morning for Friday, June 20th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Regarding Iran, President Trump lays out a familiar timeline. I'm Clayton Neville.
Democrats walked out of a Senate hearing on former President Biden's mental fitness. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Freed U.S. Israeli hostage Idan Alexander was honored with a welcome home parade. I'm Sue Aller.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says he will impose new tariffs on U.S. steel and aluminum imports July 21st. I'm Ed Donahue.
The U.S. has approved the world's only twice-a-year shot to prevent HIV. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Texas may delay the new robo-taxis. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Tomorrow, the first day of summer, and the heat is on. With the forecast, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Today looks to be nothing like yesterday when powerful thunderstorms brought hundreds of instances of wind damage to an area from northern North Carolina through eastern Ohio and into parts of northern New England ahead of a cold front. With that front now pressing off the East Coast, this first day of summer should be rather nice for many, with lower humidity across a wide area and less warmth as well. However, another wave of energy crossing out of the Midwest toward the Northeast should be enough to spark some widely separated thunderstorms late in the afternoon and into the evening hours, especially into northeastern Ohio, northwestern Pennsylvania, and western New York, but perhaps reaching northeastern Pennsylvania and portions of northern New Jersey as well. An afternoon thunderstorm may also fire up over the coastal Carolinas and the Florida Peninsula, with this risk extending across the Gulf Coast states in general. And again, it's tough to rule out a thunderstorm lingering through sunset in these areas as well. Otherwise, it's a dry end to the work week for all but northern parts of the Midwest into the interior South, with a swath of hot conditions just in time for summer from the north central plains through the Texas Panhandle and into the Four Corners states. Watch for thunderstorms today from the Great Lakes states into eastern Montana that may turn severe late in the day and tonight with damaging wind gusts, hail, even some tornadoes. But a more general risk for thunderstorms extends westward across Montana into eastern Oregon, with showers for the Pacific Northwest coast and into parts of central Washington from a storm that will bring a cooler day to areas just inland from the west coast, with the weekend bringing the chance for snow from the northern Rockies into parts of western Oregon. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Trump lays out a timeline for a decision surrounding potential U.S. involvement in the war between Israel and Iran. Iranian missiles continue to be fired at Israel, and attacks against Iranian targets by the Israeli Air Force have not subsided. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest.
Israeli officials say Iran used a missile with multiple warheads in one of their recent strikes against Israel. The exchange of attacks between the two countries rages as the possibility of an escalating nuclear threat looms. The White House said this week that Iran has the ability to produce a nuclear weapon in a couple weeks, once given the go-ahead from the Ayatollah. President Trump closely watching the situation as the White House lays out a time frame for a potential decision on if the U.S. could get directly involved in the fighting.
A message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the president a peacemaker.
And so if there's a chance for diplomacy, the president's always going to grab it, but he's not afraid to use strength as well, I will add.
While the U.S. has been closely working with Israel, Leavitt says America is not directly involved yet. She praised Israel's resolve.
The IDF and Israel, I think, have exceeded a lot of people's expectations in their ability to really hinder Iran's nuclear facilities, but also they've taken out key people in the Iranian regime's leadership as well.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was asked about the 2-week timeline.
President Trump will do what's best for America. I trust his judgment. He's a tremendous friend, a tremendous world leader, a tremendous friend of Israel and the Jewish people. And we will do what we have to do, and we are doing it.
Israel not backing away from its mission.
We are committed to destroying the nuclear threat, the threat of a nuclear annihilation against Israel.
Meanwhile, the U.S. boosting its military presence in the region. U.S. officials say that over the next 14 days, there will likely be 2 aircraft carriers in the Middle East and a 3rd in the Mediterranean Sea. I'm Clayton Neville.
Back in Washington, Capitol Hill was buzzing after Democrats reacted to a Wednesday Senate Judiciary Committee hearing investigating President Biden's mental fitness during his term as president, with some of those committee members either refusing to show up while others walked out after the hearing began. America in the Morning's John Stolnis provides an update.
All but 2 Democrats on the committee boycotted the hearing, and the 2 that did attend, Senators Dick Durbin and Peter Welch, left immediately after making their opening statements. The hearing, called by the Republican majority, sought to investigate who knew what about President Biden's health during his 4 years in office, and whether evidence of a mental decline was hidden from the public or ignored entirely. Durbin blasted his Republican colleagues for failing to hold any oversight hearings thus far of the Trump administration, despite, quote, numerous critical challenges facing the nation.
Apparently, armchair diagnosing former President Biden is more important than the issues of grave concern which I have mentioned.
Toward the end of his opening statement, Durbin played a mashup of video clips of President Trump during the last few years.
Do any of these statements raise a question of cognitive ability? You be the judge. If my colleagues are truly interested in issues of presidential succession and disability under the 25th Amendment, I would suggest they embark on this constitutional journey with a proposed amendment.
Democrat Peter Welch was the only other Democrat to speak, and before leaving the hearing explained he doesn't engage in pointless debate.
Why am I doing it? And if I do it, does it have the potential to make things better for the people I represent? And if the answer is no, it doesn't have a chance, any opportunity to help the folks in Vermont, I just shut up. That's what I do, because it won't help. What we're doing right now won't help.
Republican Senator John Cornyn noted the absences of the committee Democrats during his remarks,
leaving us with no other option than to take the boycotting of this hearing as an admission of guilt for their role in this crisis.
Cornyn also played clips of the disastrous 2024 presidential debate between Biden and Trump and accused Democrats of allowing their fear of a second Trump term in office to justify, quote, an attempt to put an at times addled old man in the Oval Office for 4 more years. John Stolnis, Washington.
He spent 584 days as a hostage of Hamas in the Gaza Strip following the October 7 attacks in Israel. And now finally back in the United States, Eden Alexander's hometown of Tenafly, New Jersey, held a parade in his honor. Here's correspondent Sue Aller with more.
Sounds of joy as Eden Alexander, a former American-Israeli citizen held hostage by Hamas, returned home Thursday to a hero's welcome in Tenafly, New Jersey. Family, friends, and supporters lined the streets waving Israeli and American flags. Some carried welcome home signs as Alexander was seen through the motorcade smiling and waving, giving high fives as he passed by the cheering crowds. Some were very emotional. These parade goers spoke to ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Being able to see the whole town come out and support him, it was very great.
Thank God. This was a pure happiness to see him smiling in his car on the way home.
It's a real moment, seeing him back home after all this time. He looks great.
Captured at age 19 during the Hamas October 7th attack on Israel, the former IDF soldier spent 584 days in captivity before being released on May 12th. Alexander has asked for privacy as he recovers, but his family expressed deep gratitude to those who advocated for his release. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, who met with the family during Idan's captivity, called his return a triumph of hope, resilience, and unity. I'm Sue Aller.
New threats from Canada's Prime Minister. And Texas lawmakers take the wheel on autonomous taxis. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Canada's Prime Minister is threatening to increase tariffs on U.S. steel and aluminum products if talks with President Trump fail. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports the implications on talks will be far more reaching than just the United States and Canada.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says he will impose new tariffs on U.S. steel and aluminum imports July 21st, depending on the progress of trade talks with President Trump. The two met at the G7 summit in Canada.
President Trump and I agreed to pursue negotiations towards a deal within the coming 30 days.
Carney says the tariffs will be adjusted up or down based on the status of those talks.
We must reinforce our strength at home and safeguard Canadian workers and businesses from the unjust U.S. tariffs.
The Prime Minister says this could set off a global recession, and it's not just because of a trade war.
Actual wars, including wars that can have quite significant implication for commodity prices, global growth, aside from the human cost that comes with them.
Audio from CTV. Canada is the largest foreign supplier of steel, aluminum, and uranium to the U.S. President Trump has imposed 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum, as well as 25% tariffs on cars. I'm Ed Donahue.
An appeals court has sided with President Trump, allowing the White House to keep control of the California National Guard troops he deployed to Los Angeles. The 9th District Court of Appeals ruled the federal government would prevail against California's challenge to the legality of the troop deployment. The recent activation of the National Guard troops to L.A. was the first by a president without the governor's permission since 1965. Well, just in time for summer, temperature records are expected to be smashed as close to 200 million people are in the crosshairs of a massive heat wave heading into next week. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
A heat dome will blanket much of the U.S. this week. Summer will make a dramatic entrance into the United States with stifling heat and uncomfortable humidity for millions. The heat will particularly affect this weekend across wide stretches of Nebraska, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Iowa. That's where forecasters are warning of extreme temperature impacts. This is the first stretch of true summertime weather for many folks from the Midwest to the East Coast. Soupy conditions will stretch into next week, and humid conditions will make it feel extra toasty. I'm Haya Panjwani.
The FDA has approved a new medication that involves a twice-a-year shot to prevent HIV. Lisa Dwyer reports.
The U.S. has approved the world's only twice-a-year shot to prevent HIV, made by Gilead Sciences. While a vaccine to prevent HIV is still needed, the lenacapavir shot nearly eliminated new infections in 2 groundbreaking studies of people at high risk, better than daily preventative pills, which patients can forget to take. The drug is already sold to treat HIV under the brand name Sunlenca. The prevention dose will be sold under a different name, Yeztugo. The drug is given as 2 injections under the skin of the abdomen, where the medication slowly absorbs into the body. No word yet on price, but budget cuts to aid and health programs could financially hinder domestic and global distribution of the drug. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Texas lawmakers want to regulate new autonomous self-driving taxis before they hit the Lone Star State streets this coming fall. With details in today's Tech Report, here's our Chuck Palm.
Texas lawmakers may be urging Tesla to delay the release of their new robo-taxi until new regulations can take effect. Democrat lawmakers in the Texas House of Representatives and Senate have signed a letter requesting that Tesla delay their launch of their new robo-taxi autonomous driving until regulations begin on September 1st. Those new regulations would require autonomous cars to be registered under Texas law and meet certain safety vehicle standards, and also be capable of achieving a minimal risk condition if the automated driving system is rendered inoperable. The same regulations would require that companies operating autonomous vehicles provide a first responder interaction plan to the Department of Public Safety detailing how emergency personnel should interact with the new driverless vehicles. Texas state lawmaker Vicki Goodwin expressed concerns about the safety measures of the self-driving vehicles. CEO Elon Musk assures the company has been testing its full safe driving cars on the streets of Austin for the past month. For more tech news, find me on X at Chuck Palm.
NBA and more in Friday Sports. Here's Robert Workman.
This year's NBA Finals are going the distance. The Pacers ran away with Game 6 in Indianapolis last night, rolling over the Thunder 108-91. It was a one-point game midway through the second quarter, but it soon turned into a rout. Indiana went on an 11-0 run to take control and led by 22 at the half, then held OKC scoreless for the first 5 minutes after intermission, going up to a 31-point bulge. Coach Rick Carlisle.
When we made a mistake, we bounced back well, and that's what you got to do this kind of time of year.
6 Pacers scored in double digits, led by 20 from Obi Toppin off the bench. Tyrese Halliburton had 14 in 23 minutes despite a calf strain. So Game 7 comes up Sunday night in Oklahoma City. Baseball, the Braves bopped the Mets 7-1. New York's 6th loss in a row drops it into a tie with Philadelphia for the NL East lead. Phillies hooked the Marlins 2-1 on Kyle Schwarber's late dinger. Nationals nipped the Rockies 4-3 in 11 innings to snap an 11-game losing streak. James Wood won it with his second 2-run tater of the day. Yankees end a 6-game slide with a 7-3 win over the Angels. Cardinals swept a pair from the White Sox. Chicago has dropped 8 straight. Tigers and Pirates split a doubleheader. A's get a 10th-inning walk-off blast from Nick Kurtz to beat the Astros. Padres turn back the Dodgers. Orioles over the Rays. Diamondbacks clock the Blue Jays. Royals rip the Rangers. Rookie Jack Caglione with his first 2 big league long balls. Giants got by the Guardians. Twins trampled the Reds, and the Brewers held off the Cubs. And in soccer, the U.S. men beat Saudi Arabia 1-0 to advance to the knockout round of the Gold Cup. Back-to-back wins after that 4-game skid. The Gold Cup is the last big competition for the U.S. before they co-host next year's World Cup. That's Friday Sports.
Forming new bonds with alien life forms. The stuff movies are made of. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. There were celebrations and remembrances of Juneteenth across the nation, especially observed in one New Hampshire community. Correspondent Marcela Sanchez reports.
Juneteenth is being celebrated across the U.S. It commemorates the day Union soldiers brought news of freedom to enslaved Black people in Texas. In New Hampshire, the Black Heritage Trail hosted events all week to honor the holiday.
I imagine among the things they would have felt when they found out that they heard about it 2 years late, maybe there was some joy. There might have been some anger.
That's Reverend Robert Thompson, the organization's director emeritus. In Portsmouth, the African Burial Ground Memorial Park is also set to be rededicated. This year's celebrations come as President Trump has banned diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the federal government and removed content about Black American history from federal websites. He has not publicly marked the day. Asked during her media briefing whether he would commemorate the Juneteenth holiday, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said,
I'm not tracking his signature on a proclamation today. I know this is a federal holiday. I want to thank all of you for showing up to work. We are certainly here. We're working 24/7 right now.
New Hampshire is not among the states with a permanent Juneteenth holiday, and Executive Director Jerry Ann Bogus says she's losing hope on lawmakers taking action. Still, she hopes events like these will make a difference. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
Many of us will be trying to beat the heat this weekend, and some will head to the movies, where another animated family film is hitting theaters. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Elio.
Pixar has a new film which is literally out of this world.
You need to make friends. You might not believe me right now, but this will be good for you.
Elio tells the story of a recent orphan living with his aunt. Desperately wanting a new life, Elio sends a signal into space with a tricked-out ham radio, and he miraculously gets a reply. When he is abducted by aliens, Elio convinces them that he is the leader of Earth.
And you're the leader of?
Earth?
Yeah, that's everyone. It's the leader of Earth.
Uh-oh.
On its surface, there's a lot to swallow here, but it's entirely digestible by telling the story from a child's point of view. And with a massive dose of Pixar charm, the movie manages to be relatable to anyone who's ever felt even a little bit like a misfit.
All I ever wanted was to find a place to fit in.
The film has many clever layers that offer wonderful messaging without being preachy or reductive.
I am Grygon, prepared to be conquered.
But I just got here.
Perhaps one of us could talk to Lord Grygon.
I am shy.
I'll do it.
For the kids, it's a vibrant and fun space adventure. And for the parents, it's an emotional ride that will catch you off guard and possibly bring a tear to your eye.
My friends need our help. You made a friend?
Beautifully animated and grounded with humanity, Elio is simply a darling of a movie.
You okay?
I'm trying to get abducted. By aliens.
Elio gets 4.5 ham radios out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
That's our show for this Friday, June 20th, 2025. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.